I think I'm there. You go. Yes. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to All for United, and we are covering Last Chance Saloon, so players and their last chances at Manchester United, and we are going to be covering the Brentford game as well as possibly the Everton game at the weekend as well. So sit yourselves in and enjoy yourself on this stream. So I've got a great panel tonight with RP Fields, Stu, and John, all regulars on the channel. They're all brilliant members. I'm glad to have this panel on with me tonight to start this preview and this debate on who should go and who's the last chances and stuff. So, yeah, we'll start off with the last chance saloon because obviously I think that's quite a debateful topic. So, guys, I've got a list here of players who I think is the last chances, and you can just agree to disagree whether you think that this is their last chance or you think they deserve more time at Manchester United. So, first of all, I am going to say David De Gea. Now, I can already tell that Dan or RP Field is already smirking because I think he's a bit of a De Gea hater, to be honest. But I'll start with De Gea. I do think De Gea deserves a bit more time. He's been a brilliant veteran for this football club. He's been a brilliant servant. And I personally think as well, David De Gea is a good enough goalkeeper to keep us in the top four, as well as I think there's more important positions that United should invest in next season or this summer to actually help us progress forward. And then possibly next season is when we go for a younger and more experienced goalkeeper. But RP Field or Dan, you explain your opinions on David De Gea. Is it his last chance or do you think he deserves more time?
I think I don't hate him. I was very, very upset at the weekend with his performance in general. It was very much what we've seen for 4 seasons. Yeah, 17-18, he was fantastic. Yeah, so 4 seasons, which was basic schoolboy errors, but then a wonderful save to get past the error. Not coming for a cross, unable to pass the ball out from the back. Just the usual, really. For me, I'm worried about top 4 on the basis that De Gea is pushing us back a good 10 yards further than we need to be. He will not come off his line for crosses. So there's a stat doing the rounds, which is something like 390 crosses, and he's claimed 11 at something like 2%, which is absolutely shocking. We shouldn't be surprised by it, and it's never going to change. It's been the same for the last decade. It's just starting to show more now. For me, in my own opinion, you can constantly change the players around him, and it doesn't help. So there's some good stats going around at the minute to back up my opinion, which is we now have a worse defensive record than under Solskjaer's first season and Solskjaer's second season. Obviously we've changed both centre backs, and it's just got worse. His save statistics are really bad this season to what he is usually at. So he's not even having a very good season at what he's very good at. His distribution from the back is terrible. There's a video of Varane against Newcastle demanding the ball. He doesn't play, he kicks it long out of play. There's another example where the ball's coming down our right and Martinez can pass it back to De Gea, and he doesn't. He just lumps it out of play with his left foot. Doesn't want to pass it there. Ultimately, I think De Gea's had enough of a chance. He's actually cost us quite a bit in massive games over the last 4 seasons. I can remember, obviously, I think everybody will remember the Paris game with Rashford. We scored the penalty at the end, and PSG go up the other end, and the lump across in that is an easy catch, and he comes and he softly punches it back into the danger zone. Luckily, it gets cleared. But there's so many examples of that in massive games. I just don't see, and someone made a point to me, and it was quite a worrying point, and that was, what if Ten Hag doesn't want to play a certain way like he did at Ajax? What if he's adapting and he wants to play this way? And that's really worrying because we haven't got the players to do it. It's not working. We're starting to fall into what we were a few seasons ago that everybody criticised. We'll talk about that a bit later. But yeah, for me, De Gea's had long enough now. We're at a massive moment in the summer, which is he either leaves on a free or he extends for way more than goalkeepers that are much better than him. So he's on 375k a week, which is not a small amount of money. And the renewal is looking at 2 to 250, which is more than the likes of Alisson, Edison, Neuer, Oblak. And it's not value for money anymore. I agree with Dan in the sense he's been a fantastic servant for the club. But there's too much sentiment on him now, and sentiment's a big issue currently at the club. For me, he needs to go in the summer. I personally wouldn't renew his contract. I think he's going to struggle to get anywhere near that money. If he leaves, I can't see him going. I mean, realistically, I don't know where he would go. Maybe a Spurs, but I can't see many big clubs really chomping at the bit to get him. The role's changed, and he's refused to change with the role. So for me, I think he's had enough chances, and I don't think he suits what we need going forward.
Okay, I mean that's a good opinion, and obviously that's your opinion. Obviously, it is allowed. I'm not going to disagree with it, or I'm not going to say you're wrong with this and this. Obviously, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. I just think that right now that United need to sort out the squad. We need to strengthen in other positions, and I honestly think David De Gea is good enough to be. It's just to actually be better for the time being, if that makes sense. So I do think that we should be investing in other positions like the midfield, the forwards, as well as the defence, because I do think that David De Gea is a good enough goalkeeper. And yes, despite his stats, which is, I would say David De Gea is one of them players who isn't a stat merchant, where like he is still a very good goalkeeper, despite his stats being not the best. And I can see why fans are frustrated with him, but I do back David De Gea, and I do think he deserves at least another year. But John, what are your thoughts on David De Gea?
Some two very good opinions from you both, different perspectives. If I'm being honest, I'm probably in between you both in terms of like, I do agree that I think eventually you will need to get a new goalkeeper. I was very frustrated at weekend. For me, De Gea, the thing I find is the biggest issue for me is not necessarily his distribution, it's his commanding. Commanding his body. He's never been one to come and collect the ball and take pressure defence. And I pointed out on the video on on Sunday rather, that, both of Newcastle's goals came from headers in the 6-yard box in the middle of them. And I'm kind of like, well, that really ought not to be happening, really. So I think he doesn't really give confidence to the defence in terms of coming to claim the ball. Now, I do agree that I think De Gea has been a brilliant servant. He's possibly even a legend of the club for what he's done over the course of the decade he's been here and that. But for me, he has, I agree, the way the goalkeeper's evolved, and he hasn't really evolved with it, unfortunately. I do think from Ten Hag's perspective, I would agree with you, Dan, maybe Ten Hag's probably looking at the summer. We don't know what the ownership situation will be. Will funds be limited? And probably the necessity is possibly to, look at maybe a striker and another midfielder before buying a new goalkeeper, perhaps. So that's where he might get that extra. That's probably why this contract situation, where it might be that, right, you'll be number one for 1 year, but maybe when funds become available the following summer, maybe that might be the time he gets a new goalkeeper. The other alternative is, I don't think they renewed his or extended his contract. So technically at this moment, they've not granted that extension. So it might be that he goes away naturally if they can't agree a contract. And there's the other factor, and Dean Henderson's coming back as well, isn't he? So you can't, as unlikely as that is, anything's possible until either he signs a new contract or they do an extension. So for me, it will be an interesting few weeks. Now, I do think eventually he'll go, but I'm not sure it'll be this summer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I agree with your opinion here. I just want to leave Jarvis's comment up here. Said, "Why is this even a debate? De Gea needs to go for us to progress. He can't play the way Erik ten Hag wants to play." And the reason I've left that up is because that I've already explained my opinion about the fact that I think that United need to strengthen in other areas first, and I think David De Gea is good enough to still like outlast and be that number one goalkeeper. Because I do think that there are more other players in this squad, despite David De Gea, who also can't play the way Erik ten Hag wants to play, and they are on this list, which is why I want to do it. So I kind of want to run through it quickly. So Stu, do you just want to give a quick opinion on David De Gea?
Yeah, well, he goes for me. I mean, for the last 18 months to 2 years, I've been very, very critical of De Gea. He's slightly improved this year in my eyes, but I think he's way past his best. And I think we need to freshen it up. And I think he needs to, Ten Hag, De Gea. I think De Gea needs a fresh experience somewhere else, whether he goes back home to Spain or he tries Italy. And we need a fresh goalkeeper at the back as well. It's been an issue for us the last 2-3 years with him not coming off his line, with him being scared to take crosses. We've conceded far, far more goals by space in the back, space concession at the back between the centre halves and the goalkeeper than we have ever done in the past, because goalkeepers should come out and they should command their area, not stay on the line. And we've been littered with goalkeepers of brilliance that have come off their line and been able to save us maybe, 12, 13, 14 points a season. Now, some would argue De Gea saves could equate to 12 points a season as well. I'm not so sure. His overall game has suffered, and we need a more progressive type of goalkeeper moving forward. We've got the kind of makings, the nucleus of a really good side, a really good starting 11. We do need to make certain changes, but to make certain changes, you've got to be ruthless and you've got to get rid. And I think it's just time for De Gea to move on. I'm not really convinced that Costa from Porto. I prefer the AC Milan keeper. I think he's quite progressive. I quite like Raya. I think he's at Brentford, isn't he, Raya? Is it Brentford?
Yeah,
I quite like him.
Tomorrow.
I quite like him, and we'll obviously get a look at him tomorrow, as John said. So, for me, he's got to go. He's been great for us, but you've got to move on. You have to be.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like I was saying, it's like I've kind of come up with this excuse that I want David De Gea to stay because I do think there are better places to invest in the squad at first. But that's not me saying I want De Gea to stay because I think he's a world-class goalkeeper. I'm saying because I do think that the United need to strengthen other areas first, and goalkeeper isn't main priority. But maybe with the way Erik ten Hag likes to play out, we've seen it recently. When we're trying to pass out from the back, we almost go to a 2-4-3, 4-2-1-3 formation almost. So obviously he likes to pass out from the back. For defenders, all goalkeeper needs to pass it out to the wider players or the more central players. And De Gea is unable to do that. And when he gets pressured, he kicks the ball long and it goes into an opposition player. So I do think as well, it's not just David De Gea's distribution, he's coming for crosses as well, which is his weakness. I'd honestly say there's been a handful of times, which I have noticed this season, that David De Gea has conceded at least 6 goals from a low-driven shot where the ball just stays on the ground and it's a power shot and just rolls and goes in the bottom corner. And I've noticed that it goes in way too much. David De Gea doesn't go to ground quick enough as well. But like I said, I think we're all in agreement that David De Gea does need to move on eventually, but I just think that right now, this summer is the wrong moment. But I quickly want to breeze over a few other players, and I think we can all be in agreement. So I've just called them the Deadwood players. So say Brandon Williams, Phil Jones, Axel Tuanzebe, and Alex Telles. Them players that I've just mentioned, are we all in agreement that they need to go in the summer?
Yeah. I wouldn't keep any of them.
Yeah, because I just think,
they're not part of the squad, are they? So
yeah, exactly. It's just players that I think need to move on, and just you might as well name them. But I think that with a few of them, you release a lot of wages there. I mean, Brandon Williams on 80 grand a week, Phil Jones on over 100, Twenzebe is on about 50 to 40, and Alex Tellers, I believe, is on 65,000 a week. So that will help us massively with wage reduction. And yeah, I think that'd be great. Next player, I mean, I don't know. Do you want to mention Dean Henderson? Do you think he'll stay, or do you think he'll Likes of Spurs are interested, and probably even Chelsea as well. They're the recent reports that I've seen.
Well, interesting. I do think he'll go, but I did make the point that imagine if De Gea doesn't sign a contract, then he's coming back. So who knows? I would say at this moment he will go definitely, but this De Gea situation could be interesting, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting. Obviously, I think that so many people talking about Dean Henderson. It is a controversial one. I do think he is a decent goalkeeper, but the ego he's got, he acts like he's prime Buffon or someone. Like, I just don't know how he actually thinks how good he is. I mean, obviously, you have got to back yourself. You've got to have that confidence in yourself. And being a goalkeeper, you do have to have a lot of confidence into saving shots. But I do think that there comes in arrogance when it comes to Dean Henderson. It's not just a big ego. He's not just having confidence in himself. He's very arrogant, I think, and he might be a nice guy, but I don't think he's good enough to take Manchester United further. And I do think that David De Gea is better than Dean Henderson. And if we're all in agreement that David De Gea must go, then I think that Dean Henderson needs to be one of the first to go, to be honest. But
I would slightly disagree.
Of course you do.
So when we talk about arrogance, David De Gea must be one of the most arrogant players on the planet. There's so many different rumours of him ignoring coaches, refusing to do certain training. I think it was Louis van Gaal's goalkeeper coach basically quit, saying that he won't listen and he won't do as we want him to work on collecting crosses and controlling his box, and he was refusing to do it. I always think awards like the Ballon d'Or and Player of the Year, Goalkeeper of the Year are popularity contests, and David De Gea in 17-18 was the best goalkeeper in the world without a shadow of a doubt. He was absolutely fantastic.
Ponytail De Gea.
I don't think he got in the votes. If I ever remember, Hugo Lloris got in the votes ahead of him. So there's definitely something.
Wasn't that because he won the World Cup though? Well, wasn't that down to his performance?
I don't think he was in the top 10 for goalkeepers. I don't think he's ever been voted in the top 10 for goalkeepers. Do you know, for these awards? And I always wonder if this, because we don't know what footballers are like behind closed doors. I always wonder if there's something there. Now, me personally, someone made the point of keeping Henderson, getting rid of De Gea. I would quite happily do that because it's something different. I agree 100% with what you're saying about Henderson and his arrogance. But some of the best players in the world have his level of arrogance, and he's not there, so he shouldn't have that level of arrogance. I get what you're saying, but going back to when Solskjaer was in charge, Henderson did really well for a period and dislodged Ayer in the team, and I think he got COVID or an injury and then couldn't get back in the team. But I think there was a big period where we won something like 14 of 15, and the defensive line was higher, the XG was higher, everything was better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to agree because I don't like Dean Henderson. I don't think he's a good goalkeeper, because the game that screams out for me is when we lost to Liverpool again about 5-0, and I think it was Salah was on the counter attack and he was literally open, and Dean Henderson literally just stands on his line and just waves his arm about, and then Salah just skips past him and then taps the goal into an open net. And if he's this massive sweeper keeper and stuff, that game, Dean Henderson was probably one of his worst performances in a United shirt or even in his career.
Was that when Dan James was chasing back Salah?
I think so. Yeah.
He got a hip injury. He had a hip injury that day.
I thought he was there hearing that, to be fair, for that one.
He had a hip injury. He had an up on his hip, didn't he, in the summer? He had a hip injury that day.
But anyway, so we're going to talk about a player who we all know and love. Our main guy, the skipper, Harry Maguire. Now, is Harry Maguire do you think he needs to go? I mean, Stu, you're already nodding your head, so I think I'll come to you first. So, does Harry Maguire deserve another chance?
Well, absolutely. He's been absolutely brilliant for us, Harry Maguire. As people can have a pop at Harry Maguire, don't understand how to defend centrally. You don't understand central defence. And I've spoken to a lot of people about this, and you've got to understand central defensive play to understand why Harry Maguire was exposed. And it comes back to De Gea, and it comes back to our central midfielder, and the yardages between our deep lying holding midfielder and the goalkeeper. Harry Maguire is never going to have the pace. He's never had the pace. That's not his game.
Wait, Stu, sorry to interrupt you. Are you actually being serious? I thought you were actually carrying on the joke. Are you being serious right now?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
People don't get centre mid defensive play. If you don't play centre half, you won't understand it. It isn't a question of just standing in the middle of the fucking pitch and wait for a ball to come and fucking head it. This is what people think centre half play is. There's so much more to it. It's knowing exactly the distance between the goalkeeper and yourself, knowing the distance between your centre half and your central midfielder and yourself, knowing the gaps where a number 10 is going to float into, knowing which side he takes the football, knowing where he chests the ball, knowing if he heads it or he doesn't head it, knowing if he takes it on his right, does he turn to his right, does he turn to his left? All this is what centre-half play is about. Most people you say about centre-half, they think, oh, he gets up and he fucking heads the ball. Oh, he gets beaten in behind. There's a variety of reasons why Harry Maguire's been beaten in behind. And number one is De Gea on his fucking goal line. When Henderson was in goal and he was sweeping, Maguire had 10 yards less to cover. That's massive when you've got someone like Mo Salah, Erling Haaland, anyone with any pace in behind you. 10 yards is huge, absolutely huge. Okay, and it's the same when you step out. When you step out and your centre midfielder like McTominay and Fred isn't there, you're then stepping into a further 10-yard abyss that gives you 20 yards to cover if you've got a sweeper keeper. And if you haven't got a sweeper keeper, it's 30 yards. So people can have a go at Maguire as much as they like, but unless you actually understand the complexities of what centre-half play is all about, nobody can criticise him. It really doesn't come down to him. It comes down to the way that the team was set up, the way that the players don't support him, and the way the goalkeeper doesn't support him. If you're backpedaling all the time, okay, you're never going to get control of the play. You're never going to be able to control your two fullbacks, which he had a problem with. A weaker kind of centre half in Lindelof, but again, I go back to when Lindelof, Maguire, and Henderson were playing as the spine. Even when Fred was in there, we were far better. We were so more solid. So for me, he stays, and quite rightly. On Sunday, Maguire would have been absolutely lambasted for the 2 goals, but because it's Martinez and because it's Varane, it's okay. Actually, it isn't, because both of them were ball watching. We don't win anywhere near as many headers when Martinez and Varane are playing as we do when Maguire's there. He can bring the ball out. The problem at the minute, he's playing a very stumped game. He's playing a very nervous match when he steps onto that pitch because of all this furore around him. Honestly, it's
Stu, just to ask you, do you think he's captain material at least?
Well, I'm not interested in skippers, Dan. I take none. I never used to take any notice of mine. If my skip, our skipper would go on the pitch and I'm like, oh, whatever. I've got my own game to play. Stop your fucking moaning. Because I'm there and I'm captaining my little part of the pitch. So I was a right-sided centre-half. I could play left, but I was mainly right-sided. So my left guy. So I'm captaining my right back, and I'm captaining the right midfielder stroke winger, whichever. So I'm focusing and orchestrating that side of the pitch, okay? And then you're looking for your left side partner to do that on the left side. And then you're looking for your Casemiro type player, your deep lying player, to organise the 3 in and around him. And then potentially, as the 2 fullbacks move forward, he's organising those as well. And that leaves you the 2 of you to kind of see what's going on. And that's how I used to do it. It's like, I've got no time for skippers. And to be fair, every time a skipper will walk on the pitch, he's not there. He's not there to lead us on the pitch, because if you can't lead yourself, you shouldn't be pulling on a football shirt, mate.
Yeah.
For me, a skipper doesn't. I don't really care if skippers aside. If I'm being honest, I really don't. And I've had this. John knows this. He knows my thoughts on captains, fella. I think it's a different age group. When I was coming through, the captain was the oldest player.
Yeah.
He wasn't the best player. He was the oldest player. And I think it's the same in Italy right now, if I'm not mistaken. The skipper's the oldest player. So, yeah, I don't mind so much.
Fair enough. Dan and John, quickly, do you want to just say, should Maguire go, or do you think that he deserves to stay, like Stu's opinion?
I think it's interesting that I would agree with. I will say I think I would like to see us sign another centre half in the summer, and I will let one of either Maguire or Lindelof go. Personally, I won't get rid of both them. Then the argument for Maguire, I do agree. I think his game. I mean, as we know, he's not got the quickest turn of pace. He's obviously very good at heading ball out and that. And he does. He has suffered from a lack of protection at times. Don't get me wrong, he hasn't helped himself at times either. But you can say that about anyone that has him in recent years. And that I think I don't get he gets so much criticism, and I think it's because he is the official club captain. I don't think he's any worse than, I rate Lindelof personally, but I don't think he's any worse than him, but he doesn't get the same kind of criticism. So it's just like, it's that kind of thing. If you're looking for someone's blame, the obvious person would be the captain, because we try and compare it to like the past, like with Roy Keane and, Brian Robson, people like that. And for me, that's why I think he gets a lot of the criticism. But for me,
he gets it, John, because we paid 80 million quid for it.
Yeah, exactly.
If we paid 40 million quid for Maguire, you wouldn't be having this.
Didn't we pay that for Lindelof? And I
we
think
paid less. We did pay less for Lindelof, didn't we? Didn't we get him
maybe 34 million or something for Lindelof?
Around that. And for me, I think there needs to be a decision. I think it's fair enough if you let one of them go. Personally, I think the argument for Maguire might be that obviously he does tend to play well for England usually, and for me, we got the Euros next summer, and he's 30 years. Now maybe he might benefit because he won't be a first team starter now unless one of Varane and Martinez is injured. So for me, maybe England call-ups and that and playing regular football, he could go to a team in mid-table or maybe push him for Europe and be a regular starter there. He was very good at less than that. So for me, I think he's certainly one you could consider of him and Lindelof, maybe bring another player in, but I'm not sure which one would go to either. I think one of them should go personally.
Yeah. I do think that realistically as well, that Lindelof is the one that should go. I would rather keep Lindelof than Maguire, but that's just because I think with Maguire, he's had enough chances now and he's always in and out of the squad, especially this season. Every time Varane's been injured this season and Maguire had to come in for him, he's not performed well at all, despite whether you say that the defence is helping him or supporting him or not. But I think
the goals we've hardly conceded. We've won every game he's played.
I know, but it's the fact as well that Harry Maguire posted on his Instagram, like he actually responded to a hate comment saying that every time I've played since the World Cup, we've got a 100% win rate. But yeah, you've been coming out the last 5 minutes, mate. Like, of course, you've got 100% win rate. You're not having to defend. He heads the ball like it's a balloon. Like, he has no leadership skills whatsoever, and he can't command his line. So, Stu, like you were talking about how, as a captain or in your area, you told your right side, you told your right winger what to do and stuff. Harry Maguire does nothing like that. He just keeps gelling his hair, keeps spiking it up, and just gets outrun by every single player. He can't pass wind, and I think that is a liability in our team.
Can I jump in? I've got so much to say about
it's like a balloon.
I respect your opinion on football, mate, but fuck me. You don't know anything about centre-half football, mate. You don't.
I've
Yeah,
got
I'm
to jump in
sorry,
on
you
Maguire.
don't.
I've got to jump in.
You've got to get it. You don't.
So
I mean, I can tell you a couple of games. I can tell you and cite 2 or 3 games where Maguire's had to come out because McTominay's been on his heels or Fred's been on his heels. And so everybody talks about, wow, he's come out and he's like a leggy fucking hippopotamus or whatever, and he's missed the ball here and fucking he's gone 30 fucking yards because there's no defender, no midfielder there. If Varane does that,
but he shouldn't be committing himself when he knows
he's
he
got
hasn't
no
got
choice. You've got no choice. Well, you've got 2 choices then.
I think it's down to decision making. I think it's just
No, you stay and let the opposition run at you for 30 yards. What's the point in that?
You just made a comparison of Fred and McTominay like messing up and Maguire's having to step out there. So do you think when we have a more balanced squad and a more matured and better squad, do you think Maguire would improve?
100%. He's not a bad. He is not a bad centre half.
I've got to jump in. Please let me jump in. Right, so
his hand up to answer the question. Go on, Paul.
You've said a couple of things here, Dan, that I see on a daily. So I get battered constantly on Twitter for my opinion of Harry Maguire, and you've said a couple of things here that is prime example. So you said when Varane's injured, Maguire steps in and we don't play well. We've won every single game. He's started 12 since December, and we've won all 12. And by the way, his personal rating in them games is 7.3 or above in every single game that he starts. His less ratings are actually when he comes on for 10 minutes. So he was nowhere near he was nowhere near the 6-3. He was nowhere near the 7-0. He was nowhere near, like, obviously when we got absolutely mullered by Newcastle the other day. He wasn't anywhere near it. So I find it so interesting because he's clearly a good player in terms of his ability on the ball, his progression of the ball. John's got it spot on. John said something which was he lacks pace and sometimes he's a bit slow on the turn, which you can't deny because he lacks pace and he can be a bit slow on the turn.
He's played time he's finished the turn. It's the end of the season. That's why it takes him so long.
But the problem is Varane currently is not playing very well. Harry Maguire has been playing really well. So if all I would say, for example, if Maguire started against Newcastle and we conceded the goals we conceded, we wouldn't be talking about De Gea and his ability to come and claim across. We would be talking about Maguire and his ball watching because Dalot had 3 at one point to defend against.
Right, you do
Varane and Martinez.
Dan, considering you're obsessed with stats, right? You do know Stevie Wonder has better ball watching than Harry Maguire.
But this is the point. It's just not true.
Martinez was ball watching Sunday, don't you?
Yeah. So
let's not forget he took off Varane and Martinez. Who was one marking Cam Wilson? Lindelof.
Yeah, well, Maguire. If Ten Hag has this confidence, then.
No, but this is a problem, isn't it? So, and this is something hopefully we can discuss later in the program in terms of Ten Hag's trusting of the squad. So, Dav said something there: ability on the ball, he gives me nightmares. He's been top 3 for ball progression, pass progression, and diagonals every season since he's joined. Every single season.
He does it like once a game, mate. Like just because he does it 100% once, he does it once.
He's in top 3, and it's not once. It's over X amount. So he's not just playing one diagonal. He's averaging 4 a game. But Varane averages a tackle a game. One tackle a game.
Harry Maguire's stats look good because, like,
hold on. Why is Varane better than Maguire? What attributes has Varane got that's better than Maguire?
For one, he's won a trophy, so he knows actually
how to win. No, forget trophies.
Forget trophies. Okay, For one, Varane actually communicates with his defence. 2, he actually built a relationship with his defence. Like you see when they make a last-ditch tackle or something, they're all high-fiving each other, chest bumping each other. Maguire's just like, oh, well done, guys.
Hold on. Attributes. I'm talking attributes. I don't give a about chest bumping. Don't care.
Okay.
Not interested.
So for me, Varane is better in the air than Harry Maguire because Maguire, like, he'll head.
He's not better in the air. Statistically, he's not
that's your opinion. Stu's asking
that's stats, so that's fact.
Right,
not
I'm
better than
I'm actually going to ban the word stats or when I'm hosting from now on, especially when you're on the channel. But anyway, I just think that Maguire, like Varane, like isn't the fastest, right? But Varane has defensive awareness to be in the right areas at the right time. Maguire always tries and has a sprint race. It's like asking a hippo to race Usain Bolt or something. Like,
So why have we conceded more goals this season than when it was Maguire, Lindelof, and De Gea?
because we're going through a transitional period, and I think that this season, United have been battered in certain games where we haven't performed well. So, like Brentford, like City, like Liverpool, these freak results that don't happen every single game, people are blaming that on certain players. But I think it's down to the entire team, and Ten Hag gets it tactically wrong as well.
Hold on. So why does Maguire not get that then? It's down to the entire team. Why is it always Maguire's fault?
Because, like you said before, Maguire's 80 million. He's got a target on his back since he's joined, and considering that,
that's not good, but that isn't a reason, though, is it? That's
well, no, you're asking me why he always.
I mean, some of the guys here are saying that Martinez wins 60%, 70% headers. You're talking about 3 or 4. Maguire heads 6 or 7 a game. He's better at corners, defending corners than Varane and Martinez. They tell you themselves, the pair of them. You can see it. His position isn't that bad. His positional play isn't that bad.
Okay, so when Maguire's on the ball, do you have confidence in that he's going to play it right? Because for me, I always get nervous. I always get nervous when Maguire's passing it out from the back.
I've got no problems with him. Just drop it off to Casemiro or drop it off to Ericsson. It's no.
He fails to do that. He fails to do that. That's what I'm talking about.
He's played with Casemiro twice and we won both games.
They all fail to do that. This is the thing. Everybody is just picking and focusing on Maguire. Like, for me, no problem. No problem. I mean, people are talking about Varane being technically better. It makes no difference. That is a technicality, is it happens.
Are they even the same type of centre half though?
No.
That's the thing, because I personally think Maguire's more similar to
here you go. Hold on. This is the typical comment. He's adding 6 to 7 a game because we're under too much pressure. He's one of the reasons. Absolute horseshit. Do you know what
I agree with Jeff.
Hold on. Pressure starts through the middle of the fucking park. If they get to us, then our fucking forward 4 and our middle 3 aren't doing their fucking roles. The only reason we get pressure at the back is because we are being attacked. So how can that be fucking Maguire's fault?
And because we haven't got a keeper that won't
start learning fucking football, please, or don't fucking talk to me.
Well, no, because that's. It's not horse shit, mate, at all. Because
Hold on. Everyone's talking about we're under fucking pressure. You're under pressure because your front 4, okay, and your middle 3 are not defended. That's the only reason you get to our fucking byline on our fucking 18-yard box. So,
right.
So how can that be Maguire's fault? Please.
I'll ask a question that I ask everybody that criticises Maguire.
Me.
And it's a question nobody can answer. If Varane and Martinez are so much better than Maguire, and Maguire 100% should be sold because there's no way back for him, why is his defensive record better than them? With the same goalkeeper, with the same right and left back, arguably they've got a better player in front of them in Casemiro, but the defensive record's worse. XG's worse. The defensive line's lower. We score more counter-attacking goals under Ten Hag than we did under Solskjaer. And Solskjaer was labelled just vibes. No passing ability.
I can't.
Nothing that's being said in terms of
Solskjaer to Ten Hag that just pisses me off. I'm not going to lie because.
Okay, right. So wait, then I've got some wonderful stats for you.
Fuck your stats. Shove them up your ass. That's all I've got to say.
So, in terms of Ten Hag and Solskjaer's first seasons, we are worse off for goals. We're worse off for XG. We're worse off for goals against. We're worse off for XG against. We're worse off for possession. Worse off for goalkeeper progression. Worse off for defensive line height. All this season, but we have a better centre back pairing.
Okay, if you say so, but this is the thing. This
No,
is
no,
why
that's not an opinion. That is a fact.
all it is.
Well, I
Like-
think the other argument is we're worse away from home this season, but we're better at home.
There is no debate.
We went unbeaten
Varane and
away from
Martinez
home, John.
were a
Under
great
Solskjaer.
partnership. No debate. But the idiocy about talking about Maguire the way that people do, I just can't cope with it. It just does my fucking head in.
It's the confidence in which they say, well, he's not very good at heading, but he is.
But the thing is, though, right, is
He's
what I
not very
don't
good on the
understand
ball,
is that
he is according to the stats. He can't pass.
You're saying with
but he is
stats, right,
according to the
about
stats.
how we've conceded more goals. You're saying with stats we've conceded more goals. I can guarantee you, if Harry Maguire played against Newcastle, right, Varane and Martinez both made at least 3 stopping challenges. It could have been 3-0 in each half against Newcastle, right?
Yeah.
Down to us, where it could have been another 6-0. And I think if Maguire played in that game, he would have got absolutely slaughtered. And if you've noticed as well, he always plays on the left-hand side with Luke Shaw. And Luke Shaw and Maguire, their partnership is terrible. It's like they're like 2 magnets of the same side. You try to put them against.
So why did they have a
don't connect.
better defensive record than Martinez and Varane?
Because once they've probably played like games that we didn't concede many goals. 2, the teams are way better nowadays and well constructed. And 3, we're going through
one season ago.
It's one season ago.
1 season ago.
One
So you take away a bad season last season, we had 2
Okay,
quality
why did Ole Gunnar
seasons.
Solskjaer get sacked then? If it was 1 season ago, why did Ole get sacked and Rangnick was brought in and that was even worse?
Well, because it didn't go very well when we brought Ronaldo back. We started relying on Ronaldo instead of scoring 126 goals in a season.
Back line, yeah, because what he didn't win a header in the opposition's box.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the way we played changed once Ronaldo came. That's obvious. We went from scoring 126 goals in a season to relying on Ronaldo.
For some reason, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had it in his head because we got second, luckily, after Liverpool and Chelsea having bad seasons. We got second place. He bottled a Europa League final. Harry Maguire was shite in that Europa League final.
He didn't play.
Yeah, he did play, didn't he?
No, he didn't. He was injured.
Oh, was he injured?
It was
Scott McTominay was our best player. Yeah. If he would have played, we'd be the Europa League champions.
I would say the whole team was fucking shite in that Europa League final.
Scott McTominay was fantastic.
Right.
In that
well,
game,
this is about. We need to move on because this isn't the Maguire show. So
anyway, Maguire stays for me.
Right.
For me, I actually hope he goes for his sake. I genuinely do. I don't think he's going to get a second chance at Man United.
Like I say, one of him or Lindelof go if we get a new centre half in.
Okay. Well, I had a massive list.
By the way.
I had a massive list of these players, but we need to talk about the Brentford game, to be honest. So I'm going to do a quick fire for the rest of the players that I've got on this list. You just say yes or no, whether they deserve to stay or not. So, right, Lindelof, does he deserve to stay or not?
I've literally just said one or the other. I don't know which one.
Yeah.
One of Maguire or Lindelof go, one of them stays. And
Lindelof goes for me.
Lindelof goes. Dan?
I genuinely would concentrate on other positions in centre back, so it depends on the budget.
Right, okay. McTominay.
Go.
There he goes, yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll make money off him, so he goes.
Okay. Sancho.
Stays,
but he is very much last chance saloon.
He is, yeah. Got one more season with us, but he stays.
I would let him stay. I don't think he's had a proper go under Ten Hag. He hasn't. His appearances have been limited for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Wout Weghorst.
Go.
Stays.
Ooh, go, John.
He stays. Yeah. I think he's great.
It's one of them positions we really need to strengthen, but if we don't, we have to keep him.
Yeah, I think he stays. For me, he stays anyway.
It's the fact he's played 20 and 20.
Yeah.
At least he's reliable.
Okay, and last one, Anthony Martial.
Go.
Goes.
Oh, I mean, I really would like him to work, but he's going to have to go.
He's got to go, hasn't he? Yeah, he's got to go. He's got to go.
Well,
he's too injury prone.
Right, so I'm going to say to you all now, and I've already put a bit on it, that Anthony Martial scores a brace tomorrow. United win 2-1. So just letting you know. So
Let's hope so.
You've got some solid odds on that, surely.
Let's hope so.
I do. It's 66-1.
Yeah, but yeah.
I'd want more.
I do think if he can stay fit, I would start him tomorrow. I know Vegas. I do like his work rate in that, but
I think he starts tomorrow.
Yeah, I hope he starts tomorrow.
And I think we'll probably be better for it as well.
Dav's spot on with that comment about Vegas there as well.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's wrong about Maguire.
It's just
He's
a
spot
shame
on
he
there,
can't
but
finish his shit.
Maguire's nonsense.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, Brentford preview. Right, so we got into this part of the show where we need to talk about our next opponents, which is Brentford, which is tomorrow. And personally, I'm a bit nervous about this game, to be honest. And I'm more nervous for this game than I am against.
Freddie smash that.
Shout out to our Fred. That's brilliant.
That was quality.
Yeah.
But with Brentford, I'm more nervous about this game than I was against Newcastle, and look how Newcastle turned out. So I honestly think it depends how United set off, to be honest. But I'll just quickly talk about the three main threats, I think, which are for Brentford. So we'll just talk about individual and what you know about these players. So, to my knowledge, that Ivan Toney is obviously their main talisman. When you think of Brentford, you probably think of Ivan Toney. He's their main guy. He's their star player. And considering he's their main target man striker, he takes their direct free kicks. He takes their penalties. And he's a very solid player who can be very dangerous for us. So, Dan, do you have any stats on Ivan Toney?
Yeah, he likes a bet. No, he's just a fantastic player, isn't he? He's averaging something like 14 goals a season for the last 5 seasons. It's fantastic. I'd take him at United. Very, very, very worried about him, to be fair. And Mbeumo.
Yeah, because
I wonder if he'll place a bet on Martial getting a brace.
Better than 66-1, probably as well.
Yeah. No, I do agree.
Okay, John.
Sorry, I do agree with Dan. If it wasn't for this betting allegation or that person would have him United, but unfortunately it's going to be resolved, and he'll probably end up getting some kind of ban event around to some folks. So I don't think you can go near him. But as a footballer, he's a brilliant footballer, and he's worked his way up.
Just out of curiosity, though, as well, is that people say that we shouldn't go near him because of these betting allegations. But what was Basuma charged with at the end of last season when he was at Brighton? What was it? He was charged with something that was illegal. I think
wasn't that sexual assault?
It might be or something. Yeah, I think it was something like that. And then Spurs signed him in the summer, so Yeah, so maybe that we should just ignore that and just be like, we just deal with the consequences.
You can't ignore it if he's going to get banned for that.
Yeah, the issue will be the length of the ban. So it's not going to be games; it's going to be months. If it goes off like Joey Barton, it's not going to be like, you're banned for 5 games. It'll be like 12 months.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, this is where I agree with you all. I actually think tomorrow night we're going to be on the wrong side of a result because we're just not playing well enough to capitalise and beat Brentford right now. Now, I famously, and I got into a lot of trouble with Brentford fans, classed them as playing like under-8s because they were just running around. They got no real... they just ran around and harassed us. Yeah, and then obviously got the turnover, and of course they scored 4 goals. They will do something very, very similar tomorrow night at Old Trafford. And we are not in a vein of form. We've hit this brick wall right now, the team has. We were never in the game against Newcastle right from the kickoff. We were never in the game. We didn't turn up. And if we do something similar tomorrow night, we are going to be the wrong end of an absolute thraping. Because if you watch the Brighton-Brentford match, which finished 3 apiece the other day, that was one of the best games of football you'll see outside the fabled top 6, one for the better phrase. 2 brilliantly well-organised teams, brilliant attacking teams, and a never-say-die attitude. And at the minute, I don't know I do know what's going on. You know, the lads have just played way too many games, and people can have a pop at me over that. But it's true. You know, you come to a stage, and there's a reason, by the way, fellas. While nobody's ever won the quad, there's a big reason for that. The amount of games that you have to play in a season to win 4 trophies,
and only one team has
ever won the treble,
and won the Premier League and the Champions League in the same season.
That's right. It's very, very difficult to maintain the level that we are going to need to be at tomorrow night to beat Brentford. Look, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope I'm wrong. But I think, to be perfectly honest, I think you're all right. Every single one of you is right. We could well be on the wrong side of a result tomorrow night. And I think you've got to be fair. You've got to hold your hands up. And I think to me, it won't be a surprise if we don't win. It really won't. I think we've got a couple of real tough games. And if we pick up a point or maybe a win in the next 3 matches, I think it'll be something. Because I don't think we've got it in us. You know, and I'm just being honest. I just don't think we've got it in us to beat Brentford. Sorry to say.
Yeah. I mean, I've got this doubt feeling that we might get turned over again. We might lose 1 or 2-0, but I am confident as well in the aspect where I do back my team. I do think we might win. We are at Old Trafford.
Yeah, 100%. I get that.
And the thing is that we've made Old Trafford a fortress at the moment, and our win rate at Old Trafford is brilliant at the moment. It's just our away record.
Do you think we've got the goals, though, Dan? Do you think we got the goals? We haven't scored in 3. I'm just, you know.
No, I agree. I agree. And I honestly think, like, obviously, I know you said that Martial should go, but I obviously, I didn't give my opinion on Martial. I think Martial should stay if he can stay fit. And I think that when Martial came on against Newcastle, he was linking up the play.
Good.
He looked really good and he looked sharp. And I spoke to someone because I bumped into when I went to the gym a few weeks ago. I bumped into someone who works for United, and he told me that Eric Ten Hag has put Martial under a 4-week training program to make sure that he's not being rushed back and gets injured. So he's trying to see him out for the rest of the season. So
he was man of the match. I put him as man of the match, Dan.
Yeah. I honestly think that Martial, he will help us out, and I think with the likes of Antony and Rashford, because Martial doesn't need to be that getting behind striker. Rashford and Antony do that for him. So he just needs to stay on the edge of the box. And then if they make a cross or a ball into the box, then Martial can be dangerous in that aspect.
Agreed. So one question I've got on that, though, Rise, is that, and this is why I like Vegos. Vegos creates space. I don't know if you've noticed, but he creates space for Rashford and Antony. Martial won't do that. And my worry is, how many times have we seen Antony and Rashford cross the ball more than twice in a game? It's quite rare.
I think that's personally where I do agree with you that there are anxieties about, you know, whether we can get results tomorrow. I do think that if you are going to the way Brentford play, they very rarely have the majority possession, do they? Even in games where they win and win comfortably, their possession is usually under 40%. So we will have a lot of the ball tomorrow. How do you break it is the question.
John, I don't know if we will.
I think we do, because Brentford aren't a high possession.
I think it could be. It wouldn't surprise me if it's like a 1-0 either way tomorrow, to be honest. And I think if we are to get results, I just think Martial could be critical in terms of like but we got to score eventually. Yeah. So, you know, it's like
the thing is though as well, John, as well, is that just to back my opinion on Martial as well for tomorrow is that Wout Weghorst can only play centrally. I like how Martial actually drifts wide and actually helps out the supporting wingers. So with Martial as well, like, we can all interchange. So Antony could become could go on the left and be more creative. Rashford could go he's scoring quite a few headers this season. So I like
there's an argument to say you could push Martial out on the right and still start.
I was going to say that.
There's an argument to say it, yeah.
And that's what I was saying.
I don't think he will. By the way,
I don't think he will either. But what I'm saying is as well is that with that front three of Rashford, Martial, and Antony, it becomes a lot more balanced, and they can all interchange and change each other's positions to keep Brentford defenders worried and thinking about, all right, who's coming from where, which direction, etc. But we need to talk about Brentford, about how we set up. So since Thomas Frank has been Brentford manager, they used to play a 3-5-2 formation. And since Brentford have been in the Premier League, they've changed that to a standard 4-3-3, which obviously is what everyone plays nowadays normally, unless it's a 4-2-3-1, which is what United play. But in build-up in possession, Brentford changed to a 2-4-1-3 formation, kind of like United do when we're building up in possession. And obviously, their fullbacks almost become wide midfielders, and they're compact deep in the midfield, and then they almost have 3 forwards and that main playmaker. So for me, obviously, we explained before that Ivan Toney is a very threatening player. He is their target man striker. But as Dan also mentioned before about Mbumu, who's a very, very quick striker. He's a very quick forward, and he's there getting behind type striker. So I think he's a very underrated player. And I think if Thomas Frank gives him the instructions on to target Luke Shaw, that's where the game will go wrong, because Luke Shaw for me at the moment is in horrendous form. And I do think that, I mean, if it was up to me, I'd be starting Malacia in this game.
So would I.
But the thing is that I think that if Mbumu does target Luke Shaw, it will be a tough game, and I think that's where the game will go wrong by Brentford attacking that left-hand side in our defence, because it looked what happened against Newcastle. Trippier almost became a free right-hand-sided player, and Luke Shaw was constantly dealing with Murphy and Trippier, which is quite a tough day at the office, let's just say. But I do think Brentford are a very dangerous team, and obviously their most previous result against Brighton, they did score 3, but they also did concede 3. And Brentford right now have currently only won, have only earned 5 points in their last possible 12. So you could say they're struggling for form at the moment as well. But, you know, we can't underestimate Brentford because we did lose 4-0 to them last time. But we'll go into the predicted 11s now, and we'll obviously go defence, midfield and forwards. So for me, I think it will be David De Gea, Dalot, Varane, Martinez and Shaw. That's the team I think De Gea will go for. If I had the option, I would be swapping Wan-Bissaka for Dalot and Malacia for Shaw. But the predicted 11, I think it will be the same back 5 as it was against Newcastle.
Look, I would bring in Wan-Bissaka if he's fit. I know he was ill, wasn't he?
I think he is back.
If he's back, I would play Wan-Bissaka. I totally agree. I would play Malacia. What I would do, though, Dan, and I know people are going to say this blows your Maguire argument out the window, but hear me out. I would bring in Shaw at left centre-half, and I would put Martinez as our CDM. I would change it up slightly. And there's a reason I would do that is because I would have to bring Bruno in as an 8, but it'd have to be a steady 8. And then you've got a 10 position open for either Sancho, Martial maybe, and that allows you then to play your 3 that you would normally have, maybe Weghorst for the height, if we use it, Anthony and Rashford.
Okay.
But that's a balance. That's balance. That gives us balance on the left.
I can admit, and Stu, I know not to debate with you because you'll just drill into me until you get your opinion.
I'll go McLaren Lindelof.
I'm a great debater, mate. I'm a great debater. No, I'm only joking.
I know.
I'm just the Maguire thing to me, and I'm not having a go at you, mate. I just think it's very short-sighted of people. And of fans, and I've said this before. John will tell you, he will tell you. I've said this before. I'm not defending Maguire for the sake of defending him, because if I was, I'd have been churlish and put him in the starting 11.
Yeah.
But for balance, tomorrow we've got to do something different, and I think we'd all agree here, haven't we? And
I'll agree that the especially the midfield we did. You know. I do think that the midfield was very unbalanced against Newcastle, and it had.
We all know the big miss. I know he played against Liverpool, but the big miss was Casemiro. He really, if he had Casemiro, I think
just to make this point as well is that are we becoming a one-man team relying on Casemiro so much?
Well, we were relying on Rashford for his goals. So,
well, this is the problem. This is the problem with modern day football, and we've been crying out for a Casemiro type of play before.
Yeah.
The thing that Casemiro offers, and I think Martinez can offer something very, very similar. And we know that McTominay, we know that Fred can't do it. Okay. He has a habit of receiving the ball off Varane or Martinez or a centre half, right? And he will run 2 or 3 yards with it and then he'll move it. But what he does, he'll keep jogging for an extra 5 yards and then he'll stop and he'll look at wait and he'll watch the play unfold. And if we get some kind of turnover, he's perfectly positioned to go where he needs to go. If we keep maintain the possession, he'll go an extra 10 yards around the centre circle time. And again, if we have a transition turnover, he's ready. He can backtrack 10 yards and he's ready. He's ready to defend our position. If we progress again and we get to the edge of their area, he'll just move up slightly and offer himself as a alternative player to receive the ball. And again, he'll stay relatively central where he can, so it enables him to turn back. McTominay can't do that or won't do it, and Fred doesn't do it. Yeah. And I think Martinez has that discipline to do it, and that's why. Yeah. But look, Ten Hag won't do it. We know he won't do it. I think you're right. I think he'll stick with the back five. But as Charlie says, I'm not. Do we pull out the Europa League? I think we're too far deep into it now to pull out the Europa League. But we could have maybe.
Welcome to Men's Channel, Charlie.
Yeah, and fans won't like this, but we could have sacrificed something earlier on in the season. Now, I made a point on, and Daniel was on the show at the time, where I said for the League Cup second semi-final, where we were, was it the Europa League, Dan? I think we were 4-0 up, weren't we? Something like that. Yeah, and we were playing the FA Cup. We were playing Reading in the FA Cup. And I said, send the first team away on holiday, play the reserves, and run that squad for the weekend. Yeah. And then it would have given us a much-needed break.
Oh, that was after the Nottingham Forest game, wasn't it?
The Forest game. That's it, the Forest game, yeah. And I think that would have worked for us, pal. I do.
It probably would, but don't forget as well, I think the World Cup has took a massive toll on these players this season. Yeah, and obviously... I think that they've already. I think the FA have already announced that whoever hosts the World Cup have already announced that they'll never do a mid-season World Cup again, despite how much revenue it brought in.
But so to Charlie's question, it's a great question. It really is a great question, but I think we're too far down now to bother. I think we're too far down.
I mean, we've got the FA Cup semi-final against Brighton, and then we've got Sevilla, and we're in pretty much the last 16, aren't we, or the last 32 or something. So I've already worked it out that we've currently got 13 games left to play this season, despite not progressing through other cups. So if we go out to Brighton and we lose to Sevilla, then we would only have to play 13 games for the rest of the season. But if not, then we've got nearly 17 to 20 games left to play this season, which is a lot of games still left to play, especially in such a short term, considering doesn't the season end in May?
Yeah, May. So what would we have played in total? If we end up, would we played over? So how many games would we play?
So we've got 11 games left in the league. We've got the FA Cup,
and then we've got
and we got Sevilla. That's 14. So we could play an FA Cup final. We could play and the semi-final, Europa League, and that. So is that 18?
I think it's 19.
18, that's 19, that is.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So we've got 19 games left to play this season.
How many we played? How many games have we played?
I think good question. I think it's 46, 7.
I'm sure I read somewhere it's 47, and we can play 66 by the end of the season if we go everywhere.
Yeah, I think they said if we reach the final of the Europa League and FA Cup, only the 08-09 season we played more games.
Yeah.
There you go then.
It's a massive toll to ask on these players, especially in Erik ten Hag's first season. But as we're saying, so I'm going to now say my midfield, and I do think this is how Erik ten Hag is going to set up. And because Sabitzer went off with a limp in the Newcastle game, or obviously he was going over the last 20 minutes, he had a limp. I do think he will experiment with Lindelof as the CDM, and I do think that it will be Fred and Bruno as the other midfielders. And the reason why, Stu, I didn't go for Martinez as a CDM to experiment is because Erik ten Hag hasn't experimented with him this season as the CDM. So I think it's too late in the season to actually do that now. So I do think that it will
Has
be.
he played Lindelof in CDM?
Yeah,
he's been once, hasn't he?
Played once or twice when I think it was a Nottingham Forest game.
Was it? Yeah.
He came on, didn't he, and played centre midfield.
He came on for like
Was it Leeds game?
It might have been Leeds as well. Yeah, I think it was another game. Casemiro was suspended or something. And yeah, I do think that Lindelof might be one because I don't think he'll play McTominay, and I don't think he'll play Sabitzer with this current injury. Because I think Erik ten Hag now needs to take a step back and be like, right, if my player's got the slightest knock, I can't play him despite it because I can't risk him getting any more injured. I mean, look what's happened to Eriksen. Van der Beek, despite him hardly playing under Erik ten Hag, is also out. And I'm pretty sure if Van der Beek wasn't injured, he would have got some game time under this.
He would have got some game time, yeah, guaranteed.
Yeah. So it's just like I think that if it is McTominay, then I do think we lose the game, and I honestly think that that's down to it because I think Janssen, their playmaker, would absolutely annihilate Scott McTominay. And as well is that what I didn't like against Newcastle is that McTominay was almost playing as a 10 and Bruno was playing as a 6. And it made no sense to me whatsoever. And I don't know. And I will admit, Erik ten Hag did get tactics wrong against Newcastle. And I think we can all admit that. But hopefully this season he sticks to his guns. He sticks to the players that he knows that he's safe with. And hopefully we can get a win because obviously we're currently 5th right now due to goal difference. And we need and yes, despite us having games in hand on Spurs, we need to get these are the games where we need to get the points. And I do think that Erik ten Hag has got to go a bit more balanced in that midfield. But speaking of Janssen, as I don't know if I've already mentioned him, but he's their playmaker and he's really stepped up since Christian Eriksen left Brentford.
Yes.
He's their main set piece taker. One second, I'm just moving the cat off my notes. With Janssen, he's their playmaker. He takes all their set pieces, their corners, their throw-ins, their long free kicks, and he can literally split open a defence like that with a low-driven pass. He's very dangerous, and if McTominay plays, then I think Janssen would have an absolute field day, especially with Ivan Toney and Mbumu.
Him and also Wiss. Is it Wiss? Wisser. Him. Now, I know he's not been playing all the time, but he's dangerous. He is. And I think he'll cause Dalot big time issues if he plays.
I agree.
A good player he is. He knows where the goal is as well, doesn't he, that Wisser? That's him, not Wiss. Wisser.
Yeah.
I knew I'd get there in the end.
Daniel, what do you think? What are your opinions on the midfield? Do you think he should keep it with McTominay, Fred, and Bruno, or do you think that he should experiment with Lindelof?
I don't. I'm starting to question ten Hag in terms of his selection for such a busy period. He doesn't make changes. He doesn't want to make changes. You've just said that you hope he sticks with what he knows. That's not working. With our forms bang average at the minute in the last 5 games or so, we're struggling. I personally don't see any midfield that any of you can name that is going to not get bossed by Brentford's midfield.
Yeah, I agree.
I genuinely don't see. I'll be shocked if we have more possession than Brentford. It's going to be two teams against each other.
Brentford don't play with high percent possession. They're not a high percent possession team.
Yeah, but we can't keep the ball. We can't pass the ball.
Unless you do something which he hasn't done, and that's really stopping the midfield.
Yeah,
like a 4-5.
Almost as if you play Sabitzer, Fred, and McTominay.
I wouldn't be shocked to see McFred back with Fernandez in front. In terms, and even bigger starting.
I think that's one other error he made at Newcastle. I think you need Fred in the midfield.
But one of the biggest errors he made against Newcastle for me was, and Wout got loads of criticism because he was obviously didn't touch the ball, wasn't really in the game, and I've mentioned this a few times.
All game, mate.
He wasn't good at Newcastle. He wasn't.
He's decent is because he triggers the press and Fernandez backs him up, and then everybody else follows. But when Fernandez was so deep, he was never going to follow the press, and nobody else was following the press. So he was pressing.
Here's a question. Do you think Erik ten Hag should experiment in more of a 3-5-2 formation where...
No, I think he needs to start changing personnel.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is that if he goes to a 3-5-2 formation, let's say like he played Varane, Martinez, and Shaw as the centre backs, and then he plays Antony and Rashford as the wingers, and then he compacts the midfield with three players, and then he has Weghorst and maybe Martial or someone to help carry the press. Do you think that could work, or do you think that would get bombarded?
I think he's going to have to. He's from the way I see it, he's going to have to play counter-attacking football. He can't. He's shown that he's not going to change it all too much. He might stick Shaw at left centre back. He might swap Dalot for Wan-Bissaka, but he's not going to make wholesale like crazy changes. Like Klopp tonight has dropped Salah, Robertson, Trent. He's literally swung the sword, and that's the sort of thing that Ten Hag needs to, not because of tiredness, but form. Luke Shaw's bang out of form at the minute. I agree 100%. He's just not at it. So why should Malacia not get a run out? I don't think Varane's playing very well lately. So why should Lindelof or Maguire not get a run out? Same with, I think Wan-Bissaka has been much better than Dalot, and I genuinely think he would have played if he wasn't ill the other day. He's won that right back spot for me. I'm just really worried about the midfield. McTominay and Fred will do a job to a point and always have done a job to a point. It's obviously not good enough long term, but I think Brentford are such a good footballing team that we're going to see what we saw against Newcastle. They're going to press so high, and I don't think we've got the players to play out of that press. It's going to be so. I would go for sheer. It's a shame we haven't got Dan James. I would literally just go for sheer pace on the break, pack in the midfield and defense, and go for pace on the break, because we haven't got the quality to if we could try and go toe-to-toe with Brentford's midfield, we're going to get beat. We tried to go toe-to-toe with Liverpool's midfield and we got battered, and that midfield is at it. So it shows the levels that ours at currently.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Lindelof's an interesting theory, I have to say. And I would imagine he'll be loath to break up Martinez and Varane, even though, as I think we'd all agree, they were woeful. But the whole team was at Newcastle. You know, let's be fair. But they were woeful as well. I'd love to see him do something radical, actually. I really would. I'd love to see him do something radical because, you know, Fergie back in '92 did something radical, you know. And, you know, Fergie always took risks throughout his career. Managers in the past, Klopp's taken risks throughout his career. You know,
I think Klopp sent a message tonight. He sent a message to Salah, and he sent a message to the players, Robertson, Trent, who aren't putting up performances that should be.
Van Dijk's missing as well. And
Van Dijk's ill, I think. Yeah.
Oh, he's ill, is he?
Yeah, he's ill. Yeah, I don't think he's dropped Van Dijk.
He's been missing all season, though, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, he's not been great this season. But I think he's genuinely sent a message to say, if you do not perform, you don't deserve to play.
You know, look at Guardiola. You know, he shipped out Cancelo. I mean, the guy's a poser. There's no two ways about it, Cancelo, and he can stay in Bayern. But, you know, for City, whether I like him or not as a person, he was a hell of a footballer. But Guardiola said, sorry, mate, you're not good for me at this point in time. You're gone. And look, Ten Hag and I think we can all agree on this one, has absolutely surpassed everybody's expectations this season. And I'm worried that that's our problem as fans.
Yeah,
I'm worried that he's surpassed our expectations, and we're all kind of, well, what do you mean we've lost? What the hell's going on, etc., etc., etc. And you know, you can get away with playing the same 14 players, so to speak, can't you? In the Dutch league. You can't do it in the Premier League.
He's suffering from his own success.
He is right now. He's
like done that well, and we've had games every 3 days. Everyone's
although in fairness to him, on the flip side,
he's been brilliant.
He might manage the Martial thing, might work to our advantage. Maybe he hasn't been helped by Casemiro's.
Well, that was badly managed at the start of the season, the Martial one, because he came back for the Man City game when he was injured.
Went off at half time, didn't he?
And he went off at half time, and probably he shouldn't have played. He shouldn't have come on. They should have basically said to him, "No, you're not ready." But that's. I think you mentioned it before in a different stream, Stu. Players should take more responsibility.
They do, yeah. You've got
the radical thing I would do tomorrow is about the midfield. I'd play Tommy Amfred, play Bruno, then maybe play Martial and Rashford.
Yeah, so you're playing.
That's the radical thing I do. Make them think, oh, this
like a 4-4-1-1.
Yeah, or something like a 4-3-1-2 almost.
Yeah.
Something like that. That's probably the radical thing I might do.
It is radical, John. I think there's too big a gap on the sides. That's the only issue for me. But I wouldn't disagree with you, mate. He's got to do something. I'd love him to actually come out and say, you know what? You weren't expecting that, Tommy Frank, were you?
You know what? Because this is Eric Ten Hag, and he's actually I think he's quite a stubborn manager, and he likes to stick to his principles.
I do same lineup as Newcastle.
I know. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say I think he plays the 9 same players that he did against Newcastle, but I think the only changes that he makes is Fred for Sabitzer and Martial for Weghorst. That's the only the only changes I think he makes.
I think I said that he might
put
Fred in for McTominay and Wan-Bissaka in for Dallo, and that's probably it.
I honestly think the lot stays in, to be honest. I think Shaw stays in. I think that McTominay stays in. I don't think he'll experiment with Lindelof as much as I want him to. He might bring Lindelof on with like 30 minutes to go or something to maybe, if we somehow have scored, then he might bring Lindelof on to be that extra man in defence and maybe take off McTominay that way. But I do think that Eric Ten Hag will probably keep around the majority of the same players on as we did against Newcastle, which could cost us or it could work, because if we win, then we're all saying that he's a genius and top 4 is back on, really, because despite some people saying that top 4, I'm not worried about losing. I do think that top 4 is ours to lose. I do think that top 4, we will get top 4, but I am saying that it is our top 4 to lose, I think.
I think, and I think also I think that Michael Keane goal last night was a big. I know our Tottenham
ex-United player, Michael Keane.
Exactly. So for me, even if you were to draw tomorrow and then beat Everton, even that opens up a gap again, doesn't it?
Because this Brentford game's our game in hand as well, so it's a rescheduled match.
It is a rescheduled.
So obviously we want to win, but I would say a draw as well would be an okay result. We just can't lose, really. And I do think we need to win. But you know what? If we get a draw and it's a proper battle of the game, maybe we scrape a 1-1 or something, I'll walk away with that game and be like, you know what? Fair enough. Because remember we had a debate a few weeks ago when we said if you go into a game and you expect to win, but then the circumstances change during the game and then we draw. And is it a point earned or is it 2 points dropped? I would say that in this type of game, it would be 1 point gain, not 2 points dropped because of the opposition. But if it's like a relegation team that we draw with, then that's when I say it's like a 2 points dropped or something. But we had that debate a few weeks ago.
We did. It was a good debate as well. Another good debate, Dan. Another good debate, mate.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the bearer of bad news, but Brighton have won again today, 2-0. So
I'm not worried about Brighton.
That Ferguson scored, and now that's why I
do.
Sign Ferguson and get rid of Weghorst. That's fine.
Fergie would have signed Ferguson, wouldn't he? He'd be all out from in the summer.
100%.
Yeah. 4 points behind us now.
Competition. Maguire in the 6. There you go. Maguire.
Phil Jones in the 6. There we go.
So, guys, are we all in agreement as well that the front line's probably going to be Rashford, Anthony, and Martial? Or do you think that he'll stick with Weghorst because that's who has been playing more?
No, I think he'll go with Martial actually for this. I've got to be honest. I would actually go with Weghorst. I would start with Weghorst and bring Martial on as an impact player. Because we haven't got, if you think about it, we're Garnacho-less now, so we haven't got this real impact, have we, of pace.
We've got Palestri now, haven't we?
Yeah, love Palestri. I think he's great, Palestri. I think I'll start with Martial, but I think I think Weghorst. I think maybe Martial as an impact sub might be better. Because I thought you're right. I thought he was great against Newcastle.
Would you consider bringing Martial on as a sub tomorrow, and then maybe if he does well,
Yes,
maybe start
playing
against
Everton. Yeah, I would. Yeah,
I think though as well that none of us have mentioned. We haven't talked about how good Anthony played against Newcastle, because when Anthony went off, it was still 0-0, and it's when Sancho came on and didn't help the lot track back is where I think the game went wrong.
There's an interesting thing about Newcastle, Dan, on that one, right? And I'll refer you to Daniel Byrne, bless him.
Yeah.
He absolutely got destroyed, didn't he, by Anthony at Wembley? He got destroyed.
Yeah.
Dan Byrne, if you watched his game, completely elected to not play football and just destroy Anthony.
Yeah.
And Anthony, I did think he played well, but Anthony wasn't man enough, in my humble opinion, to take the Dan Byrne battering. He should have stood up to him a bit more. And I like, by the way, I like what Dan Byrne did. Dan Byrne's mentality was, you ain't passing, fella.
Yeah.
Whether I get booked or I get sent off, you ain't passing, fella. And he kind of stumped him a bit, didn't he? I think stumped him. But he did play well up until he went off. It did change the dynamics of the game, yes.
I do think that was the most interesting battle on the pitch.
There
were a couple of times Anthony got the better of him as well. So I think it was a good battle. And I did make the point on Sunday night show where I thought it was a mistake to take him off, because it was kind of like, it wasn't, nobody played great, but he was possibly the most likely person to do something for us possibly, and that. So for me, I think that was actually one of the mistakes, and I perhaps would have brought Martial on for Weghorst and try that for 5-10 minutes.
Honestly, if Eric Ten Hag wanted to bring on Sancho so badly, I honestly would have took Rashford off in that game, because he wasn't winning that battle against.
He didn't play that well.
Was Rashford on? I didn't see. I didn't see.
There was actually a Newcastle fan on the show.
How good was Trippier though? How good was Trippier? You see?
Yeah.
I just want to leave this. I just want to leave this comment on as well with with Man U winners. Are you like Eric Ten Hag out or something? Because you fight. Is there bloody hell? I don't.
Yeah.
Stu, the way you feel about defending Maguire is the way I feel about people saying Eric Ten Hag out. They're absolutely.
Well, I mean, if he was Ole number 2, that would be absolutely fantastic, because he's the only manager since Fergie left that qualified back-to-back for the Champions League. I'll take that all day long.
And didn't we go out the group?
He's gone one further than Ole. But actually, Man U, he's gone one further than Ole. He's won a trophy.
You've got to defend what you actually believe in, in football. I've always believed this. It's irrespective of what you know your colours to. You've always got to defend what you believe in. And I've got no problem with people having an opinion. I really don't. But it's got to be the right opinion. And that, Dan, is the wrong fucking opinion. You know what I mean? That isn't the right opinion at all. There's nothing. Ten Hag has steadied a broken ship.
Literally.
You can't expect any more from the man.
He's already exceeded everyone's expectations.
He is. So,
and the thing is as well is that I've just had this thought now. I've not thought about it before. Do you think, with the possible risk of top 4 losing out to top 4 now, Eric Ten Hag kind of takes a step back and then focuses on Europa League, because Arsenal are out, Juventus are struggling for form? Do you think that, United on the betting bookies are the favourites to win Europa League? We're the favourites. So.
Something's got to give, hasn't it? So, we said something needed to give a few weeks ago. Tomorrow at Brentford, and we got Chelsea coming up soon.
Yeah, not yet. It's not been rescheduled yet.
It's not been rescheduled. Okay.
Well, I think if we get to Juventus or play the semi-final Europa League, the only game week it can be played is the midweek before the final game of the season.
I think I honestly believe we beat Brentford. If we beat Brentford, it's a big if that, and we get a result against Everton Sunday as well, that'll probably tip us over. I think we'll be back into comfort zone.
Well, the teams around us in terms of Spurs,
they're
Brighton,
losing, aren't they? Dropping points.
They've all got each other to play as well. It's quite a tough run. Or they've got Arsenal.
Liverpool have got Arsenal, haven't they, Sunday?
Yeah. Can I just say as well, Juve are not in bad form. They've won 7 of the last 8 games.
Tottenham have to. We've got to go to Tottenham, and I think Tottenham have to go to Newcastle, and Tottenham also have to go to Anfield as well.
Have they got Arsenal as well, Tottenham, or they played them twice? It might be
They
Chelsea.
played them twice. I think
They've got Chelsea.
Yeah,
They?
it might be Chelsea.
Did you not watch AFTV? They wouldn't shut up about it.
I didn't realise that. I was looking at fixtures. Apparently, Newcastle have Chelsea away on the final day.
Oh, okay.
And I think Newcastle, they've. I'm trying to think of who else they got to play.
Was it Liverpool and Chelsea drew, didn't they? 0-0. So that's
Yeah. So I just think that I think we should be. I think what Ten Hag's banking on. I think as soon as we get Casemiro and Eriksen back, I think we should be okay. I reckon.
I think as well when Casemiro and Eriksen come back as well, that helps us massively with rotation as well. Because I've not heard any of the mainstream channels actually talk about how, even though Eriksen, for me, I'm not too fond of Eriksen. I do think that he's a great playmaker, but defensively he's a liability. And that's just my opinion. But I do think that defensively he isn't good enough. And
if you stick him next to Casemiro, he's perfect.
I just don't think he does enough defensive actions. That's the thing. I honestly prefer Fred and Casemiro over Eriksen and Casemiro.
I genuinely don't think any of this United midfield other than Casemiro can do much defensively. McTominay's box to box. Fred is so much better pressing high up the pitch than he is defending.
I think tenacity wise, he's good at sticking his boot.
We definitely. I think we can all agree that in the summer we need something that's better on the ball in terms of pass progression and can defend.
Enzo
as well.
Leafy. That's someone.
Who I go for? Paulinho.
From Fulham?
From Fulham, yeah.
I'll go with him.
Great player. He was good against us when he played. I like it. I do like him.
Yeah. All right, guys. So I think we've talked enough now. We've nearly gone for an hour.
10 o'clock. Yeah.
I know. It's 10 o'clock. I've got work tomorrow. So.
Well, I hope everybody's enjoyed the show. And
I know. It's debates. It's debates. It's strong opinions. It's been a great.
It's football, isn't it? Football, it brings debates. We weren't
all respectfully done, though, which is what this channel's about.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. We weren't disrespectful.
Everyone's opinion matters unless you think Maguire's a good player. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching All for United. I've been your host, Dan. Obviously, I've been accompanied by a great panel tonight in John, Stu, and Daniel. So, yeah, guys, thank you for watching this stream, and we'll see you in the next one, probably for the match reaction or the Everton preview, whichever one comes first. So, yeah, have a good night, and we'll see you very soon. Take care. Goodbye.